Welcome to The Fully Mindful, where we explore what it means to live with intention, creativity, authenticity, and connection. I'm your host, Melissa Chareau, mindfulness and breathwork facilitator, neurodivergent lawyer and coach, and fellow human navigating this wild and beautiful ride we call life. On this podcast, we dive deep with interviews featuring inspiring guests, share solo mini episodes packed with guided mindfulness practices to help you center and thrive, and mix things up with tangents and sidebars, where my friend and fellow podcaster Debbie Harrell from the New World Normal joins me for some real, random, and meaningful conversations. So if you're ready to pause, reflect, and expand, you're in the right place. Let's get fully mindful.
Or we can say, I live in a land of abundance, in prosperity, and I'm supported and taken care of doing whatever it is that I'm doing, and do what it is that we do, right? Mm-hmm. And allow ourselves to be open to help and support. And the crazy thing that happens, the universe then starts supporting us along our way and along our journey. And because of these tools, right? My phone, this, right? Zoom, you literally now never know who your message is going to reach.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited about today's guest, Joe Longo, a sort of Renaissance man. He's been a football player, a photographer, an IT professional, an oracle card reader, a yoga teacher, and although he might not like to admit it, his wisdom about life has been there since childhood. At the age of 5, when he was really scared, as only children can get, he heard the words, "Joe, you don't have anything to be afraid of," as if they were being said in the very room he was in. Asking his mother about it, he wondered if these were words of God, and indeed, his mother assured him they were. And he's been living his personal and professional life, trusting just that. And it's paid off. Though who knew, certainly not him, at the beginning of the pandemic when his pivot to life coaching began. Because in mid-March 2020, everything pretty much shut down. So to survive, to keep his sanity, he began pulling our oracle cards, which I like to call nice tarot cards. He started pulling them every day on Instagram. His words and insight began to take on a life of their own, inspiring thousands, literally thousands of people around the world. And the added benefit, well, he felt connected, and so did his followers. So step into this intimate conversation about following the winding road of and to your dreams, trusting yourself and the universe. You might just get whisked away by the intoxicating allure of Joe, happy and conscious content creator. Hey, well, welcome everybody. This is Melissa with The Fully Mindful, and I'm excited to have here today my guest, Joe Longo. He's from the Poconos, which is kind of my old neck of the woods. He is a conscious content creator, and yes, he did give me that title to say it's very difficult. So he is a conscious content creator. He's a manifestation coach. He's also the host and curator for the Daily Shot podcast. He's also an oracle wizard. More on that later. So welcome to the show. Joe, how are you?
I'm great, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here to chat with you and to spend some time with you and your guests.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And just so the listeners know, like how I got turned on to Joe was, I don't know, somehow on Instagram. And I started seeing his amazing content. So he's not kidding when he's a conscious content creator. He creates content that, I kid you not, for me, Joe, first time I saw you, and I don't even remember what it was, but you said something that was like, oh, yeah, that. I needed to hear that today. Like exactly spot on. And not just some like superlative, like fluff. It was like to the heart, to the core. That's what I needed to hear today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. And then it turns out that we both went to the same coaching school, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep. Journey or Lumia.
Lumia, now known as Lumia. So we'll rewind a bit.
Yeah.
And talk about your journey to get to being a conscious content creator and Instagram extraordinaire, podcaster, oracle card reader, master of the universe.
Master of the universe. Well, it's been a long time coming. We'll,
Yeah,
we'll,
tell us a
we'll,
little bit about that.
we'll kind of, we're going to jump ahead so I don't talk too much. But 13 years ago, um, Super Bowl Sunday, I quit my day job,
Yeah.
not knowing what I was going to do. I just couldn't take it anymore. And on my ride home from a vacation in Vermont, my boss called to scold me for not replying to emails quick enough. And I said, you know what, Bill, I quit, man, I quit. He said, we'll talk about it on Monday. And I said, no, we won't. I'm never coming back. Take everything that's at my desk and throw it away. I'll ship you my laptop. Thanks. And he was like, seriously, Joe, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'll teach yoga and be a photographer, but I'm never coming back there again. And I hung up
Yeah.
and
And just
squeezed my steering wheel so tight for the next 6 hours, saying, what did you just do? What did you do?
yeah.
But in that space of, oh my God, what did you just do? There was also this like, oh my goodness, I'm free. I
Yeah.
had no idea what I was going to do. I was 2 months into a yoga teacher training program. I went to school for photography, and I never ran a business. I never taught a yoga class, but that was it. Like I knew I could take pictures. In other jobs that I had in information technology, I would bring my photographs in and line the walls because most IT departments are just dark in the basement, no windows. So I would, bring in nature pictures that I took. And people started saying, why are you not taking pictures? Why are you not a photographer? And I was like, well, I went to school, yada, yada, yada. Here I am. Life happened and I stopped being creative. And I get this new job, think it was great, and I quit. And I'm like, so now I'm a photographer and I teach yoga, but I don't know what I'm doing. And failure is not an option became my mantra. I was divorced. I'd been, single maybe for like 2 or 3 years at this time. I had 2 dogs. I'm like, it's just me, my 2 dogs. I can figure out how to survive. Like I can figure out how to make this happen. So I had time. So I dove into that Kundalini teacher training that I did. And I instantly started teaching like right away. I was living in Philadelphia. I quit my job. So I was scared. So I thought the safest thing to do would be to move back to the Poconos. Mm-hmm. So I moved back and I didn't tell anybody I was moving back here. My photography career was starting to pick up. People were starting to reach out in the Philadelphia area to say, hey, take my picture, do this, right? Like all of these things. So I didn't want people to know that I'd left Philly. So I secretly moved back home, had a studio space here, a photography studio space here that I ended up teaching more yoga out of than photography. And I would just drive back and forth. If someone would call and be like, can you come shoot in Philly on Tuesday? I'd be like, yep, I'll be there. And I would, do this back and forth. And I instantly started teaching. Someone called that I went to high school with, and they said, I heard you're moving back to the area. I have a yoga studio. Why don't you come teach? I didn't tell it. Like this was all on the down low that I was leaving. I didn't tell anybody about this. So I was like, how did you know? And she was like, I don't even remember who told me. I'm like, I would love to teach. I never taught before, but just so you know. And she was like, yoga is brand new up here in Northeast Pennsylvania. Nobody knows what Kundalini is, so no one will know if you're doing it right or wrong. So just do it. And I was like,
that's the good news, right?
Yeah. So I started teaching and photographing, and life this was 2010, 2011. And, Instagram was just Instagram, and Facebook, people were still seeing Facebook posts, right? There was still a little bit of organicness happening. So being a photographer in the yoga world it was a great time to be alive. So I found myself working for Mantra Yoga Magazine, Origin Magazine, and photographing the Philadelphia East Coast yoga world, and like go to California for a week and shoot. And I'm doing all of this and kind of not owning it. Really just like, I'm a photographer and I'm having the time of my life. And it was interesting because big things were happening, but it was just like, oh, my name is on the cover of a magazine. I never thought that would happen. But not really owning it, and really like, yeah, this is what I do. I'm just kind of doing it. And I'm teaching more yoga, and I start teaching a manifestation class or a manifestation workshop. and all of these interesting things. But it was just like, I teach yoga on Wednesdays and I do this manifestation workshop and I'm a photographer. But it was all just like, I do this, like very willy nilly. You just up in the air. And everything was kind of going great and beautiful. And in 2018, I started getting this feeling of, I don't want to take your picture anymore. I've had enough of taking, because now we went from the fun spot base of, baby Instagram and Facebook, and it was just fun, to now it's like, oh, this is a thing. And now I want to be an influencer. So like, I need my pictures of me doing yoga like this. So, and I'm like, well, that's not even yoga. Like now we're moving out of the space of actual yoga. So now it's like making me feel yucky taking pictures, and I don't want to take your picture anymore. So now this thing that I loved turned into a job, and then turned into this, I don't even want to do this. And
right. Like
was
performative thing that it
yeah.
Yeah.
And it, but I'm in this space, and like everything in life, like what's the next step? Mm-hmm. So the next step for me was like, I guess I should really have a photography space to work out of. Mm-hmm. So I have this bright idea to do a Kickstarter, a GoFundMe, to literally just book out 3 months of photo sessions. So I know I have 3 months of rent for this studio space that I'm going to start renting, which was in a yoga studio. And so it was perfect, right? I have studio space that I rent that's in a yoga studio. What's a yoga studio? Just a big empty space, right? Mm-hmm. So it worked perfect. So I going through this process of doing the GoFundMe, and a coach reaches out and says, I want to offer you a month of business coaching. Instead of donating to the GoFundMe, I want to help you in this way. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say no to coaching. Like, that would be just silly.
You knew what it was then? I mean, a lot of people have no idea what coaching is, and what might have been like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Back in the day, I had a coach that was really beneficial for me when I right in the beginning phases of quitting my job and really doing my own thing. And so it was like, yeah, I'll definitely do this. So we get on our first Zoom, and we're about 5 minutes into the Zoom, and he looks at me and he says, Joe, you're a coach. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, photography. He was like, yeah, you're a photographer, but you're coaching the people that are in front of your camera. And he was like, what about those manifestation workshops that you teach? Mm-hmm. That's group coaching. You're a coach, and you don't even see it because you're doing it, and it's just what you do. And I was like, oh my, oh my, oh my, right? Because I was already mad at photography and not wanting to do it. And now here's this coach showing me what coaches do, right? Showing me what I'm already doing and not even seeing. Right. So no lie, the next day I'm walking my dog and I get a text message from a friend of mine, and she said, you should check out the Mark Groves podcast. There's something about his voice that reminds me of you. And I had another podcast around that time called Inspired Creativity. And she was like, there's just something about his tone. Mm-hmm. You should check it out. So I start listening to Mark Groves, and I'm like, this is good. This is really good. Here's a man talking about emotions and love and all of it. And he's like a coach. So I fall in love with that. So that happens literally the day after that first interaction with the coach. The next day, so 2 days after, I get an email or a text from somebody about John Kim, the angry therapist. And like, you need to check out John Kim. Now, why all of a sudden out of the blue, right? After a coach it's not like I jumped on TikTok or Facebook or whatever and was like, I'm a coach, right? Like I was sitting with this, like, wow, right. I think maybe I am a coach. And now out of the blue, 2 coaches just get dropped into my lap.
Wow. I love how, I just have to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Just listening to your story in this way, it's like how the universe is so obviously providing for you along the way. From, not telling anyone you were moving to the Poconos, which by the way is not terribly close to Philadelphia. So kind of crazy that you were going back and forth, to do photography gigs. Right. But you get, then somebody just finds out that you are interested in teaching yoga and like, oh, happens to have a space. And then this, the photography thing shows up, and then this coach shows up in your life, and then John Kim shows up in your life. It's just, it's just beautiful, like, and I don't know if you want to talk about manifestation, but like, I'm fascinated with it. You weren't even necessarily consciously aware of what you were manifesting, and yet you totally were, right? You were attracting
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you needed in the exact moment. And you were open and saw it.
Yes. And yes. And part of it, because that thing, right, that I was doing that I didn't see that I was doing sparked, right? It
Mhm.
like lit that energized spark within me that was like, oh, I am doing this. And it is amazing. Right. And then it's like I start getting these flashbacks of messages that people would send after a workshop and be like, oh my goodness, I did this and I got this. Like I got the car, I got the new job, and all of these things. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. And then I start looking back at astrology readings that I
Mhm.
had,
Mhm.
and I remember this one woman saying, her name was Bethelus. She had passed. She's a Vedic astrologer and just amazing, amazing soul. And she looked at me and didn't, she said two things that really stood out at me. And this was in like 2004. She told me I was a dancer and then I'm a teacher,
Hmm.
and that my abundance is going to come from being a teacher. I'm like, what am
Like,
I
what does
going to
that
teach?
mean?
What
Yeah.
am I going to teach? And at that time, I was working in information technology. I moved from the photography world into information technology, and I got married at that time, and I didn't take a photograph for 4 years.
Mm,
So I like cut off my creative energy.
right.
So it was like she was telling me these things. I'm like, I don't even see it. Like I don't see it. And then here we are, almost 15 years later, 10, no, 6 years later, I'm in this space of, wow, I'm a teacher and I'm teaching and I'm doing right. And it's kind of
Right.
like all of these things just kind of fell into place. And she even said it. She was like, things are just going to fall into place when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But it's when we realize, like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know,
Oh,
and
right.
following it. And it was just like the 3 days of, and kind of like how it's like every time I would, when I took that leap of leaving my day job, it's like the universe was like, okay, he's doing this,
Right. He's
right?
ready.
He's
Hmm.
ready. So, right, my friend reached out that I didn't even know had the studio and was like, I got a studio, come teach, right? And it just set it up in this way that it everything was just in like divine timing,
Hmm.
divine order. The first yoga class that I taught, because I teach Kundalini yoga, it was a workshop. So it's not like I had like a Tuesday night class. I was going to have a Tuesday night class, but the owner of the studio was like, we don't know what Kundalini is. You got to do an intro workshop. So literally, my first public teaching was for 20 plus people
Wow.
explaining what Kundalini is, right? So really being the teacher to teach it. And when you teach something, you learn it.
Yeah.
When you're teaching, you learn in a different way.
100%. Yeah.
And you get that the grasp. So it was like it threw me right into the fire. So here I am in this thing, and I'm like, this is like, you make money when you teach workshops. I don't make money if I teach a Tuesday night class. I mean, sure, $20, but you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
There's you
Not
get
enough.
yeah, you get paid. And I was like, and again, that being my first teaching gig thing, I was like, shit, I should do workshops, which
Hmm.
started the manifestation workshops. So it was like all of these things are happening. So now 3 days after, right, I have that call. Mark Groves is in my life. John Kim is in my life, and I'm now in it. So from John's podcast, I learn about the Journey podcast, whatever it's called.
I think
Life.
it's called the Lumia Coach podcast now, but yeah, it's for like all things life coaching or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
listening to that and I'm like learning now about life coaching, like in it, right? Like what they're talking about. And now I'm like, I love this stuff. And it may have been the fourth or fifth day. A friend of mine stopped over to my house, and she had her dog and her son with her, and she was like, Aaron's kind of asleep. Can we go for a walk around the block? So as we go for a walk around the block, she knows nothing about what's going on, right? About these coaches popping up. And she starts telling me a story about a coach that she's working with. And that the coach gave her the suggestion to go and look at her bank account and actually look where she's spending her money. And if she's actually, when was the last time she actually spent money on herself, like
Mm-hmm.
investing in herself in some kind of way? And she's saying all of this. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And still, she has no idea. Right. And we get around the block and I'm like, I think I'm going to do a coaching program. I think I'm going to enroll in a coaching program. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I told her, and I was like, everything, right, that you just said was like meant for me to hear, to realize that I don't know how I will pay for this, but I'm gonna do it. So I literally went in from that call, jumped on, sent the email to set up the call just to talk about it. Right. So I reached out, I'm like, I want to know more about coaching. And I had that call. And I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna do this. I want to be a coach.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, everybody, this is Melissa with the Fully Mindful. It's the new year, and I bet you're feeling the need to unlock your full potential and embrace empowerment, or maybe something completely different. Well, I'm excited to offer a new program with one-on-one breathwork and coaching sessions. We'll embark on a truly transformative journey of self-discovery, combining conscious, connected breathwork and embodiment coaching, and more. So contact me, Melissa, at the Fully Mindful, for your transformative session today. Yeah, that is so amazing. And I guess, sort of my takeaway is not only is the universe providing, but you're really listening. And and I think that's huge, right? Because we get messages all the time from other people, from the universe, from nature, from whatever. But we've got to be in a space where we're willing to pay attention and also take a risk, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing that you did. You took a leap. And I'm not suggesting like everybody quit their job tomorrow, but like what is a risk that we can take that tells the universe, tells ourselves that we're ready for a change. And it might look different for every person, but for you,
Mm-hmm.
it looked really big, really fast.
Right. And it just kind of, it just seems like that's the way my life is. And I'm very, 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 very thankful for it. But I also have to be clear with what I want. I think we all have to be clear with what we want
Mhm.
and then take ownership, like really, shit, what's the word? Someone's in my Monday night group said it last night. I'm like, that is so perfect. I can't remember it.
It'll
Like
come through, like, embody.
embodying
Mm-hmm.
all of it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
when we can embody our soul's purpose. And I know as soon as we say purpose, people go, I don't know what my purpose is.
Right.
But when we can embody, we'll say the thing that makes us feel good, that feeds our soul. And just recently, I've been connecting more to, instead of I teach yoga on Wednesday, I'm a coach, I do these TikTok videos, I have a podcast, to literally now saying, you know what? I am a conscious content creator. I
Mm-hmm.
create conscious content that is meant to inspire and uplift the world around me.
And it
And
does.
in doing that, hopefully, people that are touched by it, it speaks to, reach out and say, hey, I want to talk. I want to work together. Let's do something.
Yeah.
And owning it in that way and looking at people like John Kim and Mark Groves and being like, these guys are conscious content creators.
Yeah.
There's nothing different between us. And if I can look at them and realize there's nothing different, shut the story up in my mind of they did this, or well, John's in, California, so he has these opportunities, and I'm just in, the mountains of the Poconos, right? And turning all of those stories off and saying we're all exactly the same. And if those guys can do it, why can't I do it? Right? Why can't I create content that creates literally the engine to get whatever people I'm supposed to work with into my life, instead of saying, hey, you want to do this, or you should do this, or what about this, or I have this coaching program, and literally just embodying me is allowing it all to flow. And I think throughout my life, and all of these things happened, I literally dropped into the space of like, yeah, this is it. This is what I do. When I was working in IT, it was, okay, I'm a help desk manager. Now all of a sudden they did a reorganization, and literally a month later, I was the IT director. Like it happened like that. And I'm sitting behind this desk and I'm like, I have an associate's degree in commercial art photography. How did I get behind this desk? Right. And I was just like, oh, this is what I do. And then
Yeah.
from quitting, like, okay, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a photographer, and really owning it. This is what I do. And now that evolution of being here, but it was like I had to go through the transition of being, I don't want to take your picture anymore, and being mad about it and creating this transition for me. And the universe is always listening. So in 2019, I enrolled in the Journey program, the Lumia program. I was part of the October 2019 cohort when the pre-apocalypse, right?
Like pre-shitting, shit hitting the fan. Yeah.
Yeah, right. When the world was still kind of normal, but fucked up, but still normal.
Yeah.
So I enroll in the program, and I've been saying, I don't want to take a picture. I don't want to. There was a yoga and music festival happening at Hunter Mountain called the HIMSA Yoga and Music Festival. And they reached out for me to photograph it with the wonderful words in the email of, will it trade you a ticket for your photos? You can enjoy the festival and just take pictures. And I always, reply back something smart, like, how can I enjoy the festival if I'm taking pictures? And why would I even need a ticket to get in if I'm taking pictures?
Right.
So there was like this little beef, but then I saw a really good friend of mine was going to be teaching, and it was like his first like big festival. And I'm like, this would really be special to photograph, right? To photograph one of your good friends being like, on a big stage. So yeah. I agreed, I made some terms with everything and went and did it. And I got there, and the whole time I was there, I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't believe I'm photographing a festival. I'm doing 1 billion squats for no reason. And because that's all photographing a yoga festival is, you squat up and down, up and down. So on Sunday night at the end of the festival, Jai Uttal is about to take the stage, and my camera broke.
Are you kidding?
No, I had a backup, but my main camera broke. I'm like, are you all weekend? I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to take a picture. I don't want to.
You manifested that.
Right. So, the little boy that I am, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, my camera broke. And my mom said, didn't you say you didn't want to do this anymore? Like, didn't even blink.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. So I had my backup camera. So I photographed Jai Uttal with the backup camera, and, had to get I chose to get another camera because it was what I was doing. But it was the universe being like, you literally said every day this weekend, you don't want to do this. Right. So that tool that you use, it's gone. It's gone now.
Right. We're going to make it harder for you because that's what you said you wanted.
Right. So now I'm in this space of, okay, I'm in this coaching program. The tool that creates the income to pay for the coaching program is now not working. So now I have to get a camera that's about as much as the coaching program.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So I'm like, I don't know how, but it's like we get pushed into these situations. And I think when we get pushed, when you're in that space of, I don't know how, but I got to make this shit work, made it work. And I started posting on Facebook and Instagram. I was like, hey, I'm doing a coaching program, sliding scale. Anybody want to coach? Explore. We'll see what's up. Right. Yeah. There were some people that were paying me $20. There were some people that were paying me 50. Some people were paying me 75. And I made the intention that I'm going to use the money from these coaching sessions to pay for my coaching. And it never failed. Every month, I was on their monthly payment plan. Every month, that money was there from coaching.
That's amazing.
And it was just like, all right, here we go. And, things are going. It was the holiday season. There was a sale on a camera. So I got the camera at literally like a steal of a rate. And we roll into 2020, and I think life is going to be the best. Right? I literally am like, this is going to be awesome. Got a new camera, and I got coaching, and there's people that I'm working with, and I was speaking. I was going to speak at the Javits Center on March 10th. My birthday is March 9th.
Your birthday is March 9th?
Yeah. wellness.
Oh, that's my mother's birthday. That's
Oh,
funny.
really? How
Yeah.
about that? Your mom's a Pisces.
Yeah.
Woo.
Ooh.
So I was super excited because I'm like, I'm speaking at this spa like thing about wellness for the spa industry. And it's like the first in-person speaking event thing that I'm ever doing. And I'm super excited because I'm like, I'm speaking literally the day after my birthday in New York City.
Wow.
Wow. Right. So I'm like, and I knew about this, right? Like going into 2020, it was like on my schedule.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to speak at that event. And then I was supposed to go to Florida with them for another event and then Vegas. And I'm like, look, this is going to be the best year ever.
Yeah. And then it wasn't.
And then it wasn't, but it was. So
Right. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
right. It completely got flipped upside down. Everything I said I didn't want to do, I couldn't do. Right. So now I had a new camera, but I couldn't photograph anybody even if I wanted to because we got shut down. And the day Philadelphia went into lockdown, that Monday, I think it was Monday the 19th or the 16th, whatever it was, that Sunday was my graduation day with Journey.
Oh, wow.
So literally the day before Philadelphia got in lockdown, I got my coaching certification. So it was like, okay, now we're all in a shitstorm, but I'm a coach now. So you're feeling like shit because the world is falling apart. Let's talk.
Right. I can help.
It literally was like divine timing. In the shitty situation, it became this beautiful way that not only was I able to step into doing this amazing thing, but also pick up oracle cards and start pulling them on Facebook and Instagram every day. Because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start pulling oracle cards live every day. And so I'm pulling oracle cards and I'm doing these mastermind groups and everything just started falling into place. And I'm like, I'm a coach.
I think it's so amazing. You know, sorry to interrupt there. I just was thinking it's so amazing the way that you decided to see the world, right? Instead of seeing it as like, oh my God, everything is fucked up, I'm terrified. And maybe you had those feelings too. But it's like, okay, well, I'm going to see where this goes. And instead of being isolated like so many people were, you took this opportunity to not be isolated yourself, but also to help people to not be isolated. And I think that's such a beautiful thing because, I mean, those were really frightening times. I mean, we kind of forget, right? It's been 3 years, you know, but I mean, I remember thinking, is this like the thing on the movies? Like, you know, and within a month, I live in Oregon and, you know, so it was starting to be spring and it just rains crazy and things grow crazy. And so I live right near a college. And of course that was shut down and we walk the college every day and we were watching these and they just stopped taking care of the college. So it looked like post-apocalypse, right? Like weeds 3, 4, 5 feet tall. We used to take pictures with the weeds. We had like a weed family, you know, going a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But it was scary times. I mean, none of us knew how this was going to turn out. And I love how you decided to turn that on its head and be like, you know what? I'm going to help people. I'm going to help myself and I'm going to help people. And I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm going to show up and do it.
And that's the thing, right? Like there was no expectation and no, like, I don't even know what it's going to look like on that Sunday night prior to Monday. Me being in the yoga and fitness world and photographing this world, like that's what my focus was. So I'm connected with all of them. I'm seeing all of the yoga teachers and fitness instructors saying, you know, we're going to have class here. We're going to do class. And we didn't, like you said, we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And I grabbed my phone that Sunday and I just hit live and I went live and I just started talking. And I was like, can we all just chill out? Right? Like, I know we all want to make money, but let's just stop, right? Like you don't have to have class. And it just came very natural and it felt good. Yeah. And there were people on the other end that seemed like it connected with them.
Yeah, it's what they needed to hear, right? They needed that calming, soothing message of like, we're in it together and we're going to be all right.
Right. And we all just need to chill the fuck out. Chill out. And I got off that like I ended that live and I was talking to my friend and I was like, I think I'm going to go live every day. I don't know what I'm going to do, but there was something about that interaction that just happened that I think I'm supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next morning I set up my phone and my iPad and grabbed this deck right here, the Keeper of the Light. I had this deck and I think one other deck. And I was like, we're gonna pull Oracle cards.
And not everybody knows what Oracle cards are, even though I think probably most of my listeners might, but there might be a few out there who are like, what are Oracle cards? So tell us a little bit about that.
An Oracle card, and it's interesting because I can't even really say this is the history of the Oracle card, but
Right.
Oracle cards I look at, they're very much similar to tarot, but not. I feel tarot can be a little scary with
Mm-hmm.
like, all
Kind
of
of
the
like Ouija
things.
board energy sometimes.
Yeah, and like the tower cards and like these drastic changes where a friend of mine left Oracle cards at my house once. She brought them over one night, forgot to take them home, and I just started shuffling them and just was like, I wonder what this is, and pulling them. So an Oracle card is just they're beautiful cards, and they're multiple. Like some decks have 75 cards, some decks have 42, and they're all usually based around a certain theme.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be spirit animals, or this one is the Keepers of the Light. So it's a little bit of like all kinds of things from Hindi deities to ascended masters. But the thing with Oracle cards, they're always fun and uplifting, right? You're usually not going to get the death card or, something like that. It's
It's
usually,
always seems to like pull the tower card or, some terrible, awful card in tarot where it's like, shit, what's going to happen today?
right,
I
right. And
wonder.
I definitely didn't want that. And I had the oracles, so I was just like, oh well, let's just do this. Like the Archangel Michael, trusting heaven.
Mm.
You're safe and your angels stand close. Right? Like that's
Yeah.
just a fun card.
Yeah.
And so the oracles, it's a great way to connect with, where you are. I like to say any knowledge, wisdom, and guidance that may come through.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said earlier, you're like it might come out and it might be like, that is exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
Or it might come out and just go right over.
Sure.
We never you never know. And I think that the beauty of the oracle is that they're, at least the ones that I have that I use, they're all a little like me. Like I want to be a little more uplifting, right? Let's raise the vibration. Let's look at like where we might be going. But there's some might as well, might say as well, like one of the cards is adjacent possibilities, and it's a bunch of doors.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is we have adjacent possibilities. Just pick a freaking door. Like get
Right.
out of your head about, well, should I go in this door? Or should I go in this door? If I go in this one, like cool, weigh your pros and cons, but honestly, just make a decision. We're all going to learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn. And if you
There's a
went
lot
in
of
that,
roots to it. Mm-hmm.
right, exactly, you are going to learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn. You're just in your way. So the oracles is just this like a way of intuition, of deviation to kind of connect with ourselves and everyone and everything else. And it was a way that allowed me to embrace my intuitive nature, something else that I really didn't realize that I love that much.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with that too. But before we get there, I wanted to ask you, when you first started this Oracle card, drawing an Oracle card, saying some messages live on Instagram, I mean, you were already doing Instagram, sounds like personally and maybe professionally?
I was for my photography. So I had my Instagram, and I had MySpace space back in MySpace, and I just rolled right with them. It was
Yeah.
how I was getting my photography out into the world. And I really wasn't doing much on I was doing stories and just saying stuff.
Yeah.
But up until that point, that was really my first endeavor into like, all right, here we go, we're going live.
Right, right. And so, I mean, did you notice a huge change in how many people were following you and how people were responding to you? Maybe more importantly.
Well, followers then it all kind of stayed right around the same. I would say from like 2020 until December 8th, I was hovering from like 5 to 7,000 followers. Like it was just right there. I was scared shitless doing it.
Really?
because I have, right, well, not only like I have my yoga friends, but I have my like old school friends, right? For like friends from high school and elementary school, like everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
I was, that's what I was afraid of. Like I was afraid of like when I would see someone from high school pop up and you're like, oh shit, what are they thinking? Right. And I'm trying to be like stay in it. Right. So my mind, literally, it's like there's these two, like the good angel and the bad angel. Right. And I'm like, being like, he's not even thinking about you. Right. And trying to sit. But that was the scariest thing. Like, what are they thinking? What are they thinking of me doing this? What is my mom thinking? Here's her son pulling oracle cards, right, on the internet. But it
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
so, it was so fun. And then seeing the interaction and the
Mhm.
comments and then people sending messages and be like, that helped so much, because literally every morning from March 16th until 2 years later on March 16th, I went every single day live, every
Wow.
single day. And then on March 16th of 2021, I was like, okay, I can't go live every day anymore. And then I moved it to Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
I think what's fascinating, and you talk about being terrified, being scared, and I can certainly relate with that. I remember when I decided to, I'm going to use air quotes, come out as, somebody who was admitting she had ADHD and was in recovery for alcohol use disorder, and, was just
Mm-hmm.
kind of all around had some stories, right? And
Yeah.
I remember being so terrified about showing up exactly as I am to all these different groups of people. And like what
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're saying. What is so and so going to be thinking of this? Or like if I read a tarot card, is somebody going to think differently of me? Or if I talk about being in 12 step, what do they think? And you get to a point where you're like, and I'm going to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because there's somebody that it's going to connect with. It's
Yeah.
somebody that's going to it's going to help. And the just the this week on my show, Dr. Rob Kelly is on, and he is an amazing addiction specialist
Mhm.
and very fiery. And at one point in the interview, he has this British accent, and it gets really high, and he's like, just do it, right? Like start the business, start the job. There is somebody waiting to work for you.
Yeah.
It's like there's somebody waiting for whatever it is that you're going to do. They're waiting for you to do it. So just
Yeah.
do it.
Well, and
And
oftentimes we get we're afraid of what people are going to think, but we're also afraid to take the leap because we think nobody will come. And so, it's like to his point that you're making
mhm,
here is like, and I'll tell stories about this to myself, and I'm sure other people can relate to this. People who have imposterism for sure, and I talk with a lot of people who have imposterism. They'll think, well, I'm not as good as Joe. Joe's message is the one that really should get out there. Well, guess what? Not everybody is going to hear Joe or find Joe,
mm,
but they might find, you, John, or Melissa, or somebody else, right? And there you have what they need to hear or
mm,
experience or teach or whatever it is your vocation is, right?
yeah.
And that's the point, is like there's 7 billion of us and growing on this planet. And each person's message resonates differently with a different person. And so there's enough pie for everybody.
There is so much pie for everybody. And that's the thing. It's like turn off your television, stop watching the news, or you're going to think, oh, we're in a recession and the supply chain is broken and I can't get my toilet paper and the eggs just aren't making eggs anymore. Like
Right.
all of these things. Or we can say, I live in a land of abundance and
Mhm.
in prosperity, and I'm supported and taken care of doing whatever it is that I'm doing, and do what it is that we do,
Yeah.
right? And allow ourselves to be open to help and support. And the crazy thing that happens, the universe then starts supporting us along our way and along our journey. And because of these tools, right? My phone,
Mhm.
this, right? Zoom, you literally now never know who your message is going to reach.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like back in the day where, oh, okay, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to put flyers out and I'm going to put an ad in my newspaper and maybe I can get clients, 2 weeks later. to work with me, come to my office and sit on a chair and we can talk. This past week has blown my mind, and I'm still in the space of like saying it out loud, so it's not like look at me, but it's like a humble brag, but it's like it has me like, wow.
Yeah, what's happened?
I talked to somebody in India this week. I had a discovery call with somebody in South Africa this week. I did Oracle card read with someone in Germany. Tomorrow morning, I have a call with somebody in India, and I think tomorrow afternoon, I'm talking to somebody in Costa Rica.
Wow.
Now, I've been doing this for a really long time. And literally since December 8th, when I actually took ownership and said, I am a conscious content creator. I want to be seen, and I'm going to do this as it is like a real part of my business, and owned it, embodied it. Everything shifted. And that 7,000-ish followers on Instagram before we got on is at 28.9 thousand.
Amazing.
Literally jumped 20,000 in a month and a half, 2 months time.
And the only thing that changed was the way that you were viewing it, your mindset, the way that you were embodying it. That's it.
That's it. And literally being, I am this, right? I am exactly doing what John Kim and Mark Groves and every other male coach that is also creating content is doing.
Yeah. And you know what I love about that? Because here's what we get so much in the coaching community, and I suspect in other fields as well, is like, well, you've got to have your niche, and you've got to like sell something. You've got to have a program. It's got to be your 5-step thing to your 7-step thing, and to 30 days or 21 days or whatever. And I'm not saying that those things aren't valuable if that's your thing, but you don't have to force it, right?
Exactly.
You can just be the person doing your thing.
Right. And and I think sometimes we also get in our head saying, well, what is my thing? Right. What is that? What is my thing? And that's when that's when it's fun. Reach out, get a coach, and start exploring, start looking at, right, the things. What do you enjoy doing? For me, it was time traveling through my past and reconnecting. And again, it was like the universe. I was in the right place at the right time. My mom had all of these pictures out of me as a little kid. It flashed me back. I was doing these meditations to connect with my inner child and shadow and all of this stuff to actually, keep me moving forward. Made me remember like that Vedic astrology reading when the reader said I was a dancer and a teacher, right? I'm a performer. Seeing these pictures that my mom showed me, I'm a performer. There's something about my soul wants to be seen. This is my comfortable place, like being in front of a camera, doing this stuff. And in owning that and be like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then actually doing it. I'm a conscious content creator. I have a podcast. I coach people. But I'm also this photographer and this creative. So I can make my content, and my soul is getting fed when I set up my lights, right? Like when I set up this little spot here in the corner of my living room for my TikTok and Instagram videos, my soul is also getting fed by, again, tapping into that photography, videography, creative side. Now that I get to do it for me, right? That spark is back as well.
Yeah.
In that. So like all of these things are now being fed, because the one thing that was the constant problem in all of it, me, right, has gotten out of my way, and literally can now say without like feeling, did you really just say you're a conscious content creator? Did you really just say that you make part of your job is making Instagram reels? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that? And over Christmas, I was at my partner's house, and her kids were there, and her stepson came over, and he is a gamer on Twitch. He goes on Twitch and he plays games, and that is how he makes his living. And we're sitting there talking, and now here's right, like we're two different generations.
Yeah.
And he is making his living, right, creating videos, playing video games online, and it's supporting him. And here I am doing this. And I said to him, and it was so interesting because my partner's dad was there, who's 91 or 92. And I'm like, this is so crazy to think that what I am doing right now is my profession didn't even exist when I was in high school and college thinking about what I want to do. The
I
coaching
can't,
existed, but not like this
not
way
in this
of,
way. Yeah.
right? Or that I can have a podcast and that I can create Instagram, that I can do all of these things that generate a life.
Right.
Like it didn't even exist.
It is amazing. I read, and I can't remember exactly the statistics, but it was stunning. It was something like, I'm just going to put it out there, as 60% of jobs that kids who are in elementary school will have later don't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just mind blowing, right? Like we need to think big.
Right.
And I mean, and even then we probably won't think of it all, right? But it's like it's expansive. And so I
Mm-hmm.
know, like you said, people get worried, they watch the news, and we're not saying, don't be up on top of things, but like if you get sucked into that spiral of, it's a recession and there's not enough pieces of the pie for everyone, and I'm scared and nervous, and you get sucked into that energy, that becomes your reality.
Right.
Right.
And if we think about this with an up, yeah, sure, there is things that could be better, right, in this world. But here we are talking about recessions and supply chains. I'm sitting in front of a microphone talking into a screen that's getting zipped across the country.
Yeah.
Right? No delay, right? No long distance charges making it happen, right? It's just happening.
Yeah, and 20 years
So,
ago, no one would have ever thought. I mean, not even for a second. I mean, maybe there was one or a few people who thought it was possible, but it was few and far between. And I was talking with someone yesterday actually two different people who are creating art using AI. It's crazy. You just tell this machine kind of what you have envisioned, and it creates art. Or
mm-hmm.
well, we could debate whether it's art or not.
Right,
That's another
right.
conversation for another day. But like, it creates an image instantaneously, and it's pretty remarkable, right?
So remarkable. I just saw this thing the other day, and again, I don't remember the exact thing, but it was like in the last, we'll say again, not the exact numbers, but you're all going to get the idea. Like in the last 6 years, we've seen 100 years worth of technology introduced.
Mm-hmm.
In the next 4 years, we're going to see another 100 or 200 more years.
Wow.
So, and I forget, there's like an actual law, like one of those like universal laws of the way technology advances. And it was this whole thing, like every year it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And now we're at this space that is literally like advancing hundreds of years worth of technology in 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
and the more AI pops on, and it's here for everybody that's listening, and it's not going away. The only way it's going away is if all of the power shuts down. But this technology is here to stay. So it's like when everybody first got mad at Facebook and MySpace and like, oh, these things, right? How are we going to use our tools? And if we can really say, how can I use this artificial intelligence to help me, right? To better all of these things.
Yeah, to better the world. How can we use this for good? I want to pivot for just a minute, since I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but one of the things that we talked about when we met before is of interest to me, which is how we're fitting our version, whatever version that might be, of spirituality into our everyday life. And I know you're an intuitive, and you sort of alluded to that a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about your experience of how that works in your life, this intuitive piece, and how that helps you do all the things that you do?
Mm-hmm. So we're all intuitive, and I every day, like I sit with it, and I we may have talked about this before, this idea of walking. When we learn how to walk, we're born with two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling down. There are the only fears that humans are born with. Everything else is a learned fear. So within us, right, and these wee little babies, we're afraid of falling down and of loud noises. Yet we still listen to that little voice inside and figure out how to walk. Right? Even though we're afraid of falling down.
Yeah.
We figure it out, right? Nobody's said, Melissa, it's time to walk now. Come on, it's time. You better start crawling, right? Nobody. It all happened at your own pace, at your own timing. You figured out, I'm going to crawl, like I'm going to pull myself up. I'm going to stand. I'm going to wobble, right? I'm going to fall down, facing the biggest fear, right? One of the two only biggest fears that we have that are actual real fears.
Right.
And we push through and do it. So when I really got that, I'm like, oh shit, that voice is in there. And my mom is very intuitive. So it wasn't, even though we were very Catholic and an evangelical, it wasn't really like I knew it was there. I was aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of my grandmothers read tea leaves, and it wasn't really spoke of, but it was spoke of enough that I remembered it. And I was like, ooh, right? Like I knew there was something more. I feel I heard the voice of God speak to me when I was 5 years old and say, Joe, you don't have anything to be afraid of. I'm always with you. And that made this impression on my life that I'm not alone, that God is always with me, and I'm taken care of if I can remember it. And I've, gone through these phases. But once I found Kundalini yoga and started practicing Kundalini yoga, my intuition just popped off. Kundalini yoga is said to be the yoga of awareness, the yoga of intuition. The more we practice it, the more we get connected to that little voice inside. And the really neat thing that happens when you get connected to that little voice inside, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger when you listen to it. And I have this really great, I'll try to keep it short, story about I had a Honda Civic. It was a wonderful Honda Civic, a 2008 beautiful Honda Civic. And when I got it, I'm like, I'm driving you into the ground. Like, I know Hondas are good cars. I'm not getting rid of you until they have to pry you out of my hands.
Right.
And that's what happened. But along the way, I had, like, it was weird. Like I would start it and it felt like it was struggling to start. Like it really it's something. And I don't know really much about cars, but my two older brothers do. So I called my one older brother and I was like, when starters are going, do they like kind of slowly die out? And he was like, no, Joe, starters just die. When your starter is dead, your starter is dead. There's no warning signs. It just dies. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, because I think mine is dying. And again, no, you're definitely not. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, something is happening. I don't know what it is. So now I know just from the feel of the turning it on. So this one morning I go out to get in my car to go to the grocery store and I turn it on and it goes, and then it starts. And I pull back out and no lie, as soon as I back out, I get this little feeling like it's not going to start again. It's not going to start again. I drove to the corner, got to the stop sign, and it was like even stronger. Just this feeling like it's not going to start again. Just go home, pull in your driveway, turn it off, turn it right back on. If it comes back on, go to the grocery store. I drove around the block into my driveway, took the key out, put the key back in.
Dead.
And like it was like not a hearing. It was just this like internal dialogue of it's not going to start again. This is it. It's over.
It's just a knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just this. And I've 100% believe it because of the practice and listening, right? Like when the little things happen. So it's like that coach saying, I'm a coach. And then the friend saying, Mark Groves. And then I wish I remembered who brought John Kim in, but it was like all of these, each time I listened, my intuition gets stronger. And for everybody listening, a great way to do this, the Oracle cards have also helped, right? Because literally every day for 2 years, I pulled Oracle cards multiple times a day, right? So that helps in, it's like going to the gym. So I went to the gym every day for 2 years with a group of people for, Oracle cards for intuition. So I'm going to the intuition gym. So it's just there. And so for everyone listening, a great practice to work on your intuition is start asking yourself the questions, right? And you can start small. Like, I don't know, what should I eat today? Anything. Like the things that people are like, which way should I go to work? And just be quiet and listen. And just go the different way. Like, right. Maybe you always go and just stop. Should I go another way? Go another way.
Yeah.
Or just start going and see where you end up. And like, obviously be safe, right? But play around. Ask yourself, like, grab a notebook and just be like, what is X, Y, and Z? What is this? What does that mean? And just see what comes out. No expectation. Maybe nothing comes out. And you just write, I have no idea what Joe told me to do. This is stupid. Nothing is happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, and blah, 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 blah. Here's this brilliant idea that just popped in from nowhere. But we have to.
Yeah, I love the idea.
We got to play with it.
Right. I love the idea of experimentation. And I feel terrible, but I'm forgetting the woman who, she's an author and she's written multiple books on this. And I'll figure it out and I'll put it in the show notes so that people have that. But she wrote this incredible book and she has like 9 experiments that you can do to sort of prove that you have this knowingness, right? And that the universe has your back. And I mean, I'm highly skeptical. I'm a trained lawyer. Like that's my job. Poke holes in everything. Find flaws. I need evidence. What are you talking about? You know, it's funny. That's how I'm trained, yet so opposite of who I am as a person. That's another story for another day. But she had this experiment and she said, you know, just start off like, you know, okay, universe, today I want to see red Honda Civics. I'm ready to see red Honda Civics. And then just see what happens. Because probably you're going to see a whole bunch of red Honda Civics. And you're going to go, oh my God.
Can I tell you how it happened?
Yeah.
And I love this example. Because that is our intuition and a great way to listen to our intuition, but it is also our supercomputer brain, especially with that, right? I want to see red Honda Civics today. And because you and I are now talking about red Honda Civics, everyone that's listening, we're all going to see red Honda Civics.
Yes, we are. Yep.
Because it's getting put into what's called our reticular activating system in our brain, which is our filter. So now, because we've been talking about the red Honda Civic, and I'll just now keep saying red Honda Civics, right, to get it in there a little more, we're going to see them. But the red Honda Civic is always it's a red Honda Civic. Everybody has a Civic, right? There's a good, like I had a black Honda Civic. So it looked like everybody, like there were just black Honda Civics everywhere. Now I drive a Honda Element and you would not be surprised by the amount of Honda Elements that I see. And if you don't know what a Honda Element is, Google it because it is a weird looking, it looks like a toaster with wheels.
No, those things are awesome. And I mean, I think, and to your point, I think we have something like 60,000 thoughts in every day, but we maybe choose to pay attention to 2,000 or 3,000 of them. So like you said, those things are always there, meaning, you know, I mean, it's physics, right? Those things exist, just what we decide to pay attention to. And that's the same with our intuition. It's like, what are we paying attention to in this moment? And you can, and it could be as simple as I'm going to decide to see something really beautiful today. And the more specific you get, the better, but you could still invite that beauty into your life. And that's intuition.
Exactly. A while ago, me and my partner were at this cool little nature place here, and they have like a little gift shop with crystals and all kinds of things in it. And it's just like, you know, here's your box to put the money in. And now they have a little Venmo thing. And it's just like, write down what you got. And, you know, very trusting and sweet.
Yeah.
And they had pendulums there. And I've never played around with a pendulum. And I walked by and I looked at it and I was like, is this bullshit? Are these bullshit? And I had that whole conversation looking at the pendulums. I walk out of the little room. My partner walked into the little room and we're kind of like, they had a little video playing of the guy that, you know, owns the space and the intention of the space. So it's like she was watching a little and then she went into the gift shop and then I was watching and we really weren't in the same space at the same time. So we walk out and she has a bag. I'm like, what did you get? She's like, I got this pendulum. And I'm like, shut up. So we come home and I'm like, I don't know how a pendulum works. And I was like, I think this is bullshit, but let's see. So we Google, how do you work?
As the Oracle card wizard, by the way.
Right. Yeah, of course. And I'm human still.
Yeah.
As I hold a crystal in my hand and it just because it feels good. And I'm like, okay, so it says, ask it a question, but ask it a question like that, you know, the answer to. So you can know like your yes and no, you know, which way it goes for yes and no. So I'm like, all right, let's be silly. And I hold the pendulum and I say, I have long, flowing, beautiful blonde hair.
You do not. Yes.
I'm super bald. I'm bald longer now. I've been bald longer in my life than I've had hair at this point, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Right. So it starts going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget exactly the directions. And I'm like, holy shit. So then I stop. I say, I'm bald. I'm a bald man. And it starts going the other way.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm not doing, like, I know I'm not doing anything. And how I started this conversation was like, I totally think this is bullshit, but let's see. Right. I sat there and like, oh my goodness.
Huh.
How about
Yeah.
that? And then we just played it with it and asking it silly questions that we knew, right? Which was like, what was yes and what was no. And it didn't fail. It was always right on point. So
Yeah,
like,
and
it's
the
all
point is,
here. We're all energy. It's all connected.
yeah,
You just have to open up and be open to be like, okay, I'm ready for the signs, for the synchronicities. I'm ready for my spirit team to be here to help me, to maybe point me on the shoulder and say, maybe you should go this way to work today, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you should walk on that side of the street today. Like when you get that little thing and you're like, that's weird, listen to that weird thing, right?
Right.
If you're driving and for some reason there's a little thing that says turn.
Right. See what happens.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you'll turn and you'll run into a friend that you haven't seen in 20 years.
Right. Right.
Like it's
Well, and
just
the truth is when you look back at the things that have been really remarkable in your life, you can kind of go, oh, right, if I hadn't made that one little choice, that one little decision, this wouldn't have happened. And my whole life might have been different. Most likely would have been different. My husband and I were just talking with some friends last night about that he's French and he was getting ready to move to Morocco. And there was a decision that was very spontaneous of him to not go to Morocco and to do something else. Well, I probably would have never met my husband of the last 30 years, or maybe we would have, maybe something else would have lined up. I don't know. But it's like those little decisions that we make. Maybe that's been our intuition all along.
right. And I know and it's funny because we joked about talking extra long.
I know, here we are, Joe Rogan in it. So.
Right, we are Joe Rogan in it. But this story is phenomenal, and I'm very happy that it played out this way because it allowed me to be here. My dad had a Harley, and he went to pick up some girl on his Harley at a playground, and she wasn't there, but my mom was there, and all of my mom's friends said, go for a ride with them. Go ahead, go for a ride. So my mom gets on the back of my dad's Harley. It may have been a BMW, I don't remember. Anyway, motorcycle, and they go off for a ride. And they've been together ever since. But before that night, my dad was going to join the army, and my mom was going to be a nun. And apparently at that time, there was some kind of like buddy program with the army. So like if you and I were going, like you got some kind of something, if you and a friend went together and something was happening and my dad met my mom and was like, I'm not joining the army, and was able to back out.
Wow.
The fucking plane that took him, that he was supposed to be on, and his friend to basic training crashed. He would have been fucking dead. So not only if they didn't meet and go on that ride, like he would have continued on that path and got on that plane, and the plane went down and nobody survived.
Wow. That's, I mean, and I don't know why I'm surprised. Like you hear stories like this all the time, right? And, I have certainly my own, and probably all of the listeners have their own too, if they're sit quietly and be honest, that
right.
These stories where it's like, wow, that seemed like coincidence, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was something else. Yeah.
And the magic is all around. It literally is. We just have to be open and be like, like I said earlier, fucking alien wizard oracle. Got to own it, embrace it, embody it.
Embody it. Well, I really want to thank you as we sort of round this out, and we went a little bit longer. I thank you very much for hanging in there and for your openness and your spirit and for all the work that you do out there in the world. I just really want to thank you. What is the best way? I'll put everything in the show notes, of course, but some people are, might just be listening to this and want to like zoom in right away. What's the best way to find you?
I'd say head to Instagram. Inspire, Create, Manifest is my Instagram. And the podcast, Daily Shot of Inspiration. They're the best. Instagram, I'm really putting a lot of my energy and attention there. And I'm just, sorry, TikTok, I'm just repurposing everything over into TikTok. But I'm on December 8th, I wrote down, my intentions of growing and growth being my word of the year. And Instagram has shown up in ways that I've never had this much, not only like views and things like that, but actual interaction with messages and comments and real interaction of people just being amazing. And it's fucking awesome. So come to Instagram. I'm really having a great time there.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for you. There's some wonderful content there, and it's really, it moves me on a regular basis. And I know it does for obviously 29,000 other people and counting.
Just surreal. And all of it, this is again, one of those things of owning it. It's channeled. It's all a channel. Like everything that is coming out is I am the conduit that is the vehicle, but it is coming from
somewhere miraculous. It's obvious when people see you, or when I see you on Instagram playing oracle cards and you're messaging that, it's very clear that it is coming through you. It is part of you. It's all part of all of us, but it is being channeled through you. And I love that.
And I say it that way because that is currently like my biggest, I'm still really stepping in and owning, saying those words. They're scary words to say. These are channeled messages coming through. That's fucking scary.
Yeah.
Not scary like whoo, but just the ownership of it is makes me and puts me in a space of I'm thankful for it, but wow.
Yeah. You're taking that step off that, Indiana Jones stepping off that cliff, and that step is there, but it's invisible. But it's there for you.
It is. I'm excited. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. This was really fun. I can't wait to do this again. I hope someday.
Yes. Well, I would love to have you pop over and onto my show, and we'll just do this in reverse.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that so much. Well, thank you so much, and stay tuned for part 2.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everybody. If you like this conversation, make sure to rate the show in Apple or Spotify or wherever you are listening so that others can find it and enjoy it too. And if you like the show and want to keep hearing great conversations with really interesting people about how they found their purpose, please donate to the show. Go to thefullymindful.com to donate today. Hey, everybody, it's Melissa, and I'm wondering if you all can relate. Have you ever caught yourself procrastinating, or maybe doubting your abilities, or maybe you have a black belt inner critic like I do or have had that wants to sabotage your every move with judgment and perfectionism expectations? It might keep you stuck, it might keep you anxious and away from your full potential. The Positive Intelligence Program, PQ, is a powerful 6-week journey designed to help you quiet those saboteurs, embrace positivity, and find flow in your life. Through daily practices and weekly focuses, we'll work together to build your mental fitness. The PQ app will guide you every step of the way and support you, and you'll be supported either by myself in a one-on-one or in a small group of like-minded individuals where you can share insights and progress. So reach out, contact me at info@thefullymindful.com to find out how we can work together one-on-one or in a small group today.